People of Reddit who work in a casino, what's some of the saddest moments you witnessed?
I worked at a casino as a dealer through college. A lot of incidents were pretty sad, especially with regulars that you liked. One regular would tell me about his middle school age kids, and then I would realize the next week or so later that he was missing their school plays, recitals etc. because he was at the tables. I remember working an overnight one Christmas Eve and begging him to go home when 6/7 rolled around because his kids would be up and opening presents. Other times just people screaming at you for stealing their mortgage payments from them that month. Then seeing them back again the next day.
Geez, that's really depressing. Are you allowed to encourage people to leave the tables, or are you told not to do that?
It's a really murky area for sure. This was in the UKC, 2002–2006. During training, we were told we could offer leaflets about gambling addiction to customers we thought had a problem, but that it was a delicate issue best left to pit bosses and managers who were also on the floor. One time a guy who was always on the machines asked me for help and I showed him the materials we had, and then he got really angry with me for suggesting he had a problem, so I didn't try that again. The Christmas Day guy though, I begged him to leave, not as a dealer in a casino but as a person who'd had an absentee father during childhood. He just wouldn't.
During my 8-hour shift, a gentleman won $15,000 on a slot machine. Punched out at end of shift and had the next 2 days off. Returned to work after my weekend to find the man still sitting at the same slot machine. He had been there for 2+ days losing $15,000.
If you win that much money, pretty much have the mentality in which you will never win this much again. I live next to Atlantic City and when I'm up like $50 I walk out of the casino and play in the ocean for a few hours. I always feel as if the casino paid me to have a fun beach day.
Yup, won 5 figures recently and got the fuck out of there as soon as they handed me the check. Best decision I ever made.
We used to have a woman who would be on the blackjack tables for 5 days, nights straight. Her husband would call and tell her that her kids wanted her home. Her boss actually came to the casino to try and get her to leave. She was missing work. I don't know what happened to her, but she's probably ruined her life. We also had a few regulars commit suicide and a few go to jail.
How did she still have a job if she was regularly missing weeks of work though?
A very kind, sympathetic boss.
It's been about 15 years, but I worked in one for about 4 years. The one that stands out was a woman who came from the country to the big city to get Xmas gifts for the whole family, including young kids who still believed in Santa and all of that, but spent all of the Christmas money at the casino before going to the mall. Also, a few years later I went back to visit, and when talking to one of the pit bosses about who was still there and whatnot, she told me one of my old regulars, who was actually nice and likable, a rare trait in that business, had recently committed suicide as a result of gambling too much.
Addiction is a horrible disease.
Are behavioral addictions classified as diseases? I know some substance abusers are, but when an addiction can be halted by not going to the casino, seems like it's a little drastic to call it a disease. Many people are addicted to Reddit, to Fortnite, to porn. Are they diseased? Now if we're talking about opioid addiction, where just stopping cold turkey can have serious physiological effects, I can see that being called an addiction. Edit, some really great replies here. Thanks to most everyone for have a well-spoken discussion. I learned a bunch from this.
Former valet at a casino. The amount of daily regulars who drove barely functioning vehicles full of trash, roaches, and rats who would actually valet their car and go gamble away any money they had to their name was honestly depressing. The saddest I remember was a 90-plus-year-old lady who drove a 91 Corolla, and when we got in her car we realized she had no power steering fluid at all and her steering wheel would barely turn. I have no earthly idea how her frail arms could turn it. We went and bought her some before she left that evening.
That was really nice of you to do.
Until the 90-year-old woman jerks herself into the next lane. Going from no power steering fluid to having it is a crazy change.
My mom works as a dealer at a casino and has told me multiple stories of grown men wearing adult diapers at the table so they don't have to leave to use the restroom.
As a Vegas regular I can attest it is orders of magnitude worse when they do not wear the diapers.
How does this happen? Doesn't the casino kick out someone who shits themselves? This seems like it would clear out a large part of the floor at least. I once smelled a grown-ass old man shit himself in a bar drunk, and you would have sworn the place was on fire as to how quickly people scrambled out.
In general, people who come for the first time and are super nice and friendly, they don't care about winning or losing much, just came to have fun. They come back a few more times, then after a few years they're regulars that don't smile anymore, they don't laugh, they don't count their wins, just their losses, and sweat every comp point they earn and act like gambling is their job now and the focus of their life. I've seen more than one person have this happen to them. The other saddest thing is when a regular stops coming in and their spouse comes out and tells us they passed. We're almost family with some of our regulars and it hurts to get that news.
My favorite regulars were this sweet little old couple. They'd come in a couple times a week, and unlike a lot of regulars they just came to have fun for a few hours. They didn't spend much and were happy whether they won or lost. If I was there they'd always specifically come to me. They really did feel like family. About a year ago they just stopped coming. I have no way of knowing why. I really do miss them and hope they're okay. Edit. After reading some of your comments I decided to Google them and several pages and I found the obituary for who I'm 99% sure was the husband of the couple. He had the same name, same wife's name, same area. It sounds like he had a lot of family and friends. It also said he was a Holocaust survivor, which I had no idea about. He was always in such good spirits. I'd hoped that wasn't why they'd stopped coming, but at least I know now.
They hit the jackpot and are traveling now. One can only hope.
We had to evacuate and close down for the rest of the day due to a burst pipe causing no running water. When I walked outside there was an elderly lady throwing a legit tantrum in the parking lot. She was on the ground kicking and screaming. Her screams sounded like something you'd expect from someone who'd just lost a family member, not someone who had to leave the casino for a few hours. I left, but some of the security who were dealing with her told me later she was too upset to drive home and they had to call a family member to pick her up. I've seen some shit. A lot of what others have commented is fairly common, but this was definitely the most messed up.
Sheesh. It's literally an addict in withdrawal.
Great point. That's exactly what it is. You need that rush, and if you don't get it when you want it, well, exactly what you said.
Grandmother, mother, and daughter heading to the casino by car from 2 hours away. Mother had a postcard to get a free cast iron pan for showing up. Daughter is more than 8 months pregnant. 1 hour away from the casino, daughter starts to have labor pains. Mother won't stop and take her to the hospital. She's gotta have that $10 pan. They arrive at the casino an hour before the promotion was going to start. Mother raises all hell trying to get her pan, but the workers for the promo haven't arrived yet. Daughter ends up having to be transported by ambulance to the hospital. All over a $10 pan.
Did she ever get the pan?
I'm not sure, but I imagine there was pandemonium.
I don't work in a casino, but live near Atlantic City. Seeing unattended children playing near the entrance to the casino floor where children aren't allowed. You brought your kids to a casino where kids aren't allowed, and just left them in a hallway.
I went to a casino for the first time a few years ago with a group for my mother-in-law's birthday. There were signs everywhere stating that it is a crime to leave children unattended in your car in the parking lot. Pretty fucking sad.
Sadder when you think about how many times it had to happen before they put up a sign.
Worked in a casino for about 7 years, and the one that has always stuck with me was when a kid 18/19 came with his friends and lost $100 playing blackjack. Then he was sitting there, looking dejected and watching his friends win. He left and came back with another $100. I could tell from the way he was acting he probably didn't have the original $100 to lose, so he definitely couldn't afford to lose another $100, so I asked if he was sure he wanted to play. He nodded his head and solemnly said yes. Unfortunately he lost that money too.
200 is a lot better than what I've read so far. Hopefully he learned something that day.
I lost $40 in 5 minutes on my 18th birthday. Haven't been back to a casino since. I don't understand the draw. Edit. Rip my inbox.
A previous boss of mine worked at a casino in AC. He said he saw all kinds of terrible things, but the worst was when they had to close the main lobby cause a guy jumped from the 4th floor after losing.
Jesus, how much did he lose?
His balance for sure.
A woman approximately mid-30s dancing her ass off on the dance floor of the nightclub, and suddenly dropped dead. I watched her die. Or the time a VIP booth was packed, drinks flowing. Everybody picking on the guy that passed out. End of night comes and they tell us he is going to need a wheelchair, not uncommon. Guy was dead a good hour. The deaths always bug me. Casinos get a treatment similar to airports. The unspoken rule is to treat them as if alive until they get off the premises. even if they are an hour dead. The goal is to get them out as quickly as possible without freaking out the patrons. New Year's was always stressful. It was never a question if someone would die that night. It was a question of how many. A good year would be one. One year we had 4.
The unspoken rule is to treat them as if alive until they get off the premises. Fun fact, similarly, no one ever officially dies at Disney World.
That's because of what is needed these days to declare somebody dead, unless they have an injury incompatible with life, like decapitation or expelled brain matter. I work for an airline and I can tell you from experience they don't give a crap where a dead person is declared dead so long as it's done in a proper manner.
I did casino security for 3 years before I became a police officer. Had a Code M medical early one morning, around 4 or 5 a.m., old guy in his 80s passed out and fell out of his chair, wife sitting next to him. I was the first to get to him, did a quick assessment and found he didn't have a pulse, immediately started CPR. The old lady looked over and said, "Oh, he does this all the time, don't worry about him." Between chest compressions, I told her he wasn't breathing and she just kept playing her lot machine. She didn't miss a spin even when the paramedics took him away. I saw her again the next night and asked how he was doing. With the straightest face ever, she said, "Oh, he never woke up. I'm sure he's in a freezer by now," and went right back to the same machine she was playing the night before.
That reaction sounds like 20% gambling addiction and 80% bad half-century of marriage.
100% happy that she can gamble away his money now.
There were these 2 middle-aged Greek or Cypriot ladies who were always on the slot machines. Every day when I started my shift they were there when I finished 10 hours later. And still they're in the same clothes the next day oftentimes. They were super nice and always polite to the staff. One day they hit the jackpot and win big. I think it was either £15,000 or £45,000. It was a good few years ago now. Everyone was overjoyed for them, except the managers obviously. Well, the managers then gave them free meals at the restaurant and an open bar tab until every single penny of that money was clawed back into the casino.
Free meals at the restaurant and an open bar tab until every single penny of that money was clawed back into the casino. Standard operating procedure. Winners who are signed up for casino memberships get mailed free stays and other various freebies to keep them returning to the casino. My old roomie went to Vegas to party. She gambled for kicks but knew better to treat it as fun, not a monetary risk. We'd laugh when we got the casino freebies sent to our mail in Canada.
Oh, absolutely. I managed the restaurant at the casino I worked at. My phone would constantly ring with the pit boss sending over people for free food, wine. I'd wager, no pun intended, that there was a 90/10 split in comped food v food that was bought by people. I wasn't a casino employee, but I was an EMT in a certain beach town on the East Coast that could be described as bargain bin Vegas. On a given shift we would probably field 3 or 4 casino calls, more in the summer. It was pretty soul-crushing. Most calls were alcohol-related or obvious slip-and-fall scams, but occasionally we would happen upon some real tragedies. Suicide attempts, ODs, rapes, assaults happened with depressing frequency. This one sticks with me the most though. One day we had a call for a woman in her 70s sitting at the slots experiencing chest pain around 2 a.m. She refused treatment despite being in bad shape. We pleaded and begged, and even had the on-call cardiologist talk to her on the phone, but she was on a streak and wouldn't hear it. An hour later we were back doing CPR. She died right there in front of the same slot machine, with a receipt for $7 in winnings. Super fucked. The amount of employees we had to treat for exhaustion or diabetic-related emergencies due to them not having enough breaks to manage their blood sugars was also super fucked. Fuck that town.
The most depressing shifts I ever did as a medic were when I had the casino shift. I only covered it a few times, but damn was it depressing getting there at the start of my shift and seeing people lined up in the morning just waiting for the doors to open.
In AC the casinos are open 24/7, so the madness never ended. It was wild getting toned out at 0600 for someone who had been gambling for at least 3 or 4 hours.
Not a casino worker, but I know of a guy who sold his car to a loan shark pimp after losing $80,000 in 2 days. He even went to the DMV and transferred the title to a prostitute. Then when he got out of his fog, he used his spare key and found the car. He took it. He was pulled over for driving a stolen vehicle. Not sure how his court case went.
Wow. Talk about your dangerous liaisons.
Yeah.
Not a casino but a charity poker room at a bowling alley where I was a dealer. Guy was pretty drunk and just so bad at poker. Kept losing the max buy-in $300 and would go straight to the ATM and rebuy. With every rebuy the desperation became greater and greater. I just wanted to tell him to pack it up before he lost more, but that would have probably cost me my job. Eventually I think he must have emptied his bank account. I had never seen someone lose so much money in one night.
I was on a cruise when I was 18. First time gambling on a casino and learning a little blackjack. I was at the $10 min, I think max was $300 table, and was betting the minimum each hand. The guy across the table was drunk and betting the max each hand. I watched him split, double down, and lose over and over and over. He just kept making stupid calls and must have lost $20,000 in about 15 minutes.
Lost $20,000 in about 15 minutes. These types of stories make my tummy hurt.
People who haven't